Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. This is our anime podcast, where every 2 weeks we watch a new anime, then we come together and talk about it like a book club, and then pass it along to our audience to discuss. If you've heard us before, I'm sure you are familiar with the format. Otherwise, just follow along and listen for the cues. I will definitely say, listen for the spoiler warning in this one. I'm gonna give that warning. My name is Troy, but I can't do this without my other co-hosts. So let me introduce them. First off, we have the Ed Harris to my abyss, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'll keep her alive. Ha ha ha. I know that one.
Very well done. What you been up to?
I've been playing a lot of RimWorld. Jason got me hooked. It's great, especially with mods. Yep, it's really a lot of fun. Yeah, I miss the Z levels that come with like Dwarf Fortress, where you have so many different. You almost get slices out of the landscape that you can build and dig down into, and it makes me wonder if they're actually working towards that, maybe in some future release in RimWorld.
For anyone who doesn't know what they're talking about, Google either RimWorld or Dwarf Fortress and just look at the images. And then just sigh.
Yeah.
I would say it's a special kind of person that can play those games. And we just happen to have two of them on the podcast.
I have to say, I do love the game. Yeah, it's really fun.
Very good. We also have the Shia LaBeouf to my holes. Jason, how are you?
He gets Abyss. And I got a movie that I refused to watch after the first 10 minutes. Anyways, you managed to offend me just almost every week.
I found holes very appealing. I thought it was a charming movie. And
you
doesn't want to be Shia LaBeouf?
I never heard of it.
That's not surprising to anyone.
Anyway,
At this point, that's just the standard. How are you?
Okay.
What have you been up to?
My life's been in tatters because of RimWorld. Just head deep into it. It is a blast. The graphics are awful. There's very little animation in the game.
Wonderful.
They actually literally call them pawns, and that's why they don't have arms or legs, and they just kind of float around the map. Anyways,
we're selling this so hard.
It's a super deep micromanaged style game if you like Dark Souls. If you like to get your face pounded in, but in a management style game, this is the game for you. So yeah,
or become an accountant real life. Both will achieve the same goal.
No. You have no idea what you're talking about.
So much life and emergence in these characters. It's so cool. Like
it does tell its own story.
Every one of them has every game has had multiple stories for the different characters. So great. So
Guys, my eyes hurt from rolling so hard.
Yeah, why don't you roll it all over to your PS4 where you've got your 30 FPS Destiny 2?
Where I've been playing Persona 5. And it's been super fun. I picked what girl I'm going to date. I'm not going to date the teacher or the nurse. I'm going to date the student council president. And other than that, I'm just a very popular, very intelligent young high school boy who also happens to fight shadow monsters on my off time.
You know what I saw an advertisement for? Destiny on PC is going to be on capped frame rate.
Yep.
For
4K. Five computers in the world that have that capability. Congratulations to them. Enjoy spending your $5,000 to play a mediocre MMO. We need to talk about our anime because there is a lot to talk about. We watched the anime chosen by Jeremy, Made in Abyss, and we're going to go into our non-spoilery reviews. But before I do, I kind of want to warn my co-host, be as non-spoilery this week as possible because this is an anime that I feel the less you know going into, the more enjoyment you get out of it. So, Jeremy chose it. I'm going to have him go first. You sell it. What you need to say to sell it. Go ahead. But
Okay.
that's just my thought.
I really enjoyed it. It caught me by surprise. It really has this nice arc where you're relaxed and you just kind of get carried along in the story. And once they've got you, that's when they start doing interesting things. But even at the beginning, they've switched up some of the archetypes with characters from what you might expect from other anime, and it's really smooth. It just goes down really smooth.
Just doesn't come up that well, Jason.
Right.
I thoroughly enjoyed this anime. The worst part about it is that I don't see a season 2 yet.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of described it to you guys from the first part of it was almost a Miyazaki film. And then it just turns this corner. And can't get too spoilery, but it's wonderful because I think you said it in pre-show, and I really like the way you said it, Jeremy, was that it's an adult-style story from the view of a child with this heart of adventure and this sense of I can do anything. And so brilliantly told.
It's a great story.
I shared their thoughts. We went into this knowing almost nothing about it. Jeremy has the ability to find those kind of animes, ones I've never even heard of, and this one blew me away. It almost wouldn't pass my 3 anime rule before it grabbed me, because I watched 3 episodes, and then if you haven't hooked me by then, I'm moving on to the next thing. Not for the podcast, obviously, but I don't know if it would have passed that. I think it would have barely, but man, I would have missed out if I had walked away. So I think this is a hero's journey that everyone should go on, especially if you're into anime. Man, we've had some really good animes lately, and my next pick is not going to live up to it, but I'm fine with that.
It's funny, I forgot to mention my expectations, because when Jeremy mentioned it, I Googled it. I only saw the image. I didn't read it because I don't like to read too many synopsises. I saw the art style and I was like, oh, Jeremy, what'd you pick?
No. I know.
Is this Cardcaptor Sakura? What are we watching?
Right? And basically I turned around and then just got, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what did you guys think of the opening and the closing?
They were nice. There was one thing about the music that I did hate, which wasn't the opening or closing. It was in the first episode, and then later there were a few episodes, especially near the end, where there was a male singer that was really nasally, and he was really high-pitched, and he was just doing this falsetto thing. I don't know if it harkens back to my own memories of, like, The Hobbit, the one that was hand-drawn and really creepy art style, and, like, The Last Unicorn, and the way that this high singing just creeped me out. So every time that came on, it just completely ruined the mood of the anime, because I'm like, stop doing that.
I actually have to disagree with you on that one. I listened out for it because about episode 4 in, I was about to just blow up our chat with like, guys, can we talk about sound design? Because apart from opening and closing, they were okay. I skipped the opening after about the second one. I felt the sound design within the anime was just not just spot on, but like 5-star. Like it was really, really good for me.
The rest of it was, I should say, just not the
like
singing.
I felt that nasally babble song that you're talking about. Where they placed it and for that mood of the music fit so well with the emotionality of the moment. So that worked really well. The creature sound designs were amazing. And a lot of the other, like, just environmental sounds really sucked you in. I thought the sound design in this anime was just fantastic.
So I'm kind of in the middle on the sound design. I heard the song. It didn't bug me. I thought the sound design was good. But I didn't remember thinking. Only a couple times where I noticed it where they were on point. Like a music would cut out in a dramatic scene just suddenly, and you'd notice it and be like, oh. But as for the intro and closing, they were okay, and they actually gave the impression this is a different anime than what you're actually watching.
Yes.
They did.
So at first I was all like, oh no, what is this? And then later I ended up watching them more looking for clues of trying to solve this mystery. However, after the ending credits song, they would show the map of the abyss and show the character's location where they were. And I thought that was such a cool detail. And I would skip the intro and I would never skip the ending because I'd be excited for that map to just see the progress of this quest. Because it's such a cool, I mean, this whole anime is about a quest. So getting to watch that progress was a really fun thing for me.
Actually completely missed that.
I saw it once and then I didn't make the connection.
Well, it doesn't help that the first couple episodes, there's just their pictures at the top. And
right.
I waited for it. And then eventually, the pictures of their faces started dropping. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
That is awesome.
Okay. So now, true spoiler warning. We've made it clear that we think you should watch this before you listen to us. But from here on, you're on your own. So we are going to spoil everything. Characters, story, theories. We have a ton of theorizing to do in this one. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Should we talk about the Abyss before we even get into the story?
I think it will become better fleshed out if we
you want to bring it up at the end?
I definitely want to bring like what is it, because we will discuss like some functionalities of it and some properties of it as we go along through the episodes. But I think fleshing that out for any listeners or viewers that might be a bit unclear. It could be with some refreshers, so that way we can really hammer out.
Just correct me if I'm wrong here, because I do have to kind of set it up here for this intro.
Yeah.
And my understanding on it is still a little doesn't feel super strong. So just correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, on this island in the ocean, people found this abyss that just goes way far down. They've never even seen the bottom.
Correct.
And there is a ton of what they call relics in it, which is ancient technology from some ancient civilization. And getting these relics has become high profit. So a town has sprung up around the edge of this giant, I mean, it is a giant abyss. It's like this entire huge island, and they're all just along the edge, and there's a giant hole descending down. And we are introduced to a couple orphan characters who they're called red whistles, which means they're called raiders, and those are the people who go to get the relics, and they are in training. And we meet our main character, Rico, who is a young orphan girl who has desires to become what is known as a white whistle, which is the top master Super Saiyan level raiders. So let's talk about Rico, you guys, because this character goes on a hell of a journey.
I really enjoyed having the story mostly told from her point of view. Because like I said at the beginning, it's this story told through the eyes of, is she 12 years old or something like that? Full of ambition, full of life. She wants to be like her mother, who is a famous white whistle. And it's really interesting to see her deal with situations that probably a 12-year-old shouldn't be dealing with yet.
For sure. Jeremy, what about you?
I think that before she meets Ozen, which happens somewhere in the middle of the anime, she kind of sometimes was fun and funny and interesting, and other times she just kind of came off as, to me at least, trying to play up her role a bit too much, a bit too energetic for that role. But they did something really special with her, with the way that they wove her story, so that at that point, you had to suspect the motive of everything that she has wanted up to this point and beyond. And that makes her such a complex character that I couldn't stop going back and thinking about, like, okay, so if she's like this, then what is she really doing? What does she want? What's pulling her to the center of the abyss? You know, et cetera, et cetera. Also, there's a few scenes. I mean, she's central to some absolutely intense moments And the way that they handled her dealing with, I mean, she's really the vulnerable one. Once this story gets going, it is her that is going to suffer all of the pain and all of the agony of this journey, this adventure. And so the way that they handled every scene where she did have to deal with that was very well done. Very well. So magnificent. Another thing that I mentioned in the pre-show was I keep thinking of this as like Spelunky the anime. And this is what would actually happen when you fall on spikes. This is what would actually happen when you get hit by the plant creature. You know, this is what would happen if you can't take that medicine orally, right? There's some seeds, like if you're hurting that bad, yeah, you're going to wet the bed. It hurts. You're scared. You know, it's so well done. So well done.
But we learn early on that, as these trainees go down to the first level of this abyss to find like low level relics and like common stuff. Because apparently even the low level stuff off the island sells for a decent amount. That there's this curse of the abyss. And as you go down, you don't really suffer these effects. But as you come back up, coming back up from 2 to 1, you'll experience nausea and you'll just throw up. So that's one of the things that they actually they'll jab at each other like, oh, you can't handle the curse of the abyss.
So to kind of build on what you're saying here, at first I didn't really enjoy this character because we're being told about this curse of the abyss, and we're being told how horrible this abyss is. And actually, in this first episode, she's out excavating with a partner, a friend, and this giant dragon comes and almost kills her. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and then she's like, "Hey guys, I'm going to the bottom." and I'm like, everything I've been told up these first 2 episodes, when she makes the decision, this seems like the dumbest idea of all time. And like what Jeremy said, we later figure out there's more motivation pulling her to this idea than just her being naive. But at first it's like, are you the dumbest character ever? Because you were in the training area and you almost died to a giant dragon, and everything everyone said about like, oh, don't you ever go down. Don't you ever go deep into this. It's so bad. However, I loved her tenacity, and at first they'd spend a lot of time making her nude, and you don't see anything. It's very artfully covered, but she's nude all the time. And at first I was like, why are we doing gratuitous bathing scenes with a 12-year-old? This is weird. But then everything about her is better when contrasted with the next character we're going to meet, Reg, and how she's completely open and tenacious and has no shame at all. She is what she is, and she knows what she wants. And then when we come up against the contrast of the next character, which is a robot boy who saves her from this giant dragon that tries to kill her. And she finds this robot boy and brings him home. And this ends up being Reg, which is a name she gives him. So this is actually my favorite character, but I want to know what you guys thought of Reg.
I was a little bugged by him actually at first. And I didn't really start liking him much until after episode 4. He felt a bit too plot armor-y, if you will. We're talking about a world where there's this dangerous abyss and she wants to go down. How do you go down? Oh, you got a guy with an arm that can extend like rope. That's a little easy. Oh, his skin can't be pierced. Oh, he can be the perfect shield for her. It wasn't until after 4 where like more of the mystery of him. And also there's a bit of time where we spend the story through his eyes because Rico's incapacitated, where you really get attached to him as a character. And he doesn't seem like a robot. Like everything about, like, they try to feed him coals to wake him up because they think maybe he's a steam engine inside or something. And like, he's literally a robot. And so I really ended up adoring that character later on. But at first, I wasn't a big fan of him.
I completely agree. Almost the same exact arc. Mm-hmm.
I would say I actually love the idea of a robot waking up and being like, no, I'm not a robot. That'd be weird. And they're like, no, look at you, dude. You have metal arms and you have, you have not real skin. I love the idea that he was so human from the start. I actually really enjoyed the character from the start because he wasn't your typical, I'm a robot. What is love? I want to feel emotions too. He was like a super real person who's looking down at his metal arms like, this is a nightmare. I woke up a robot and I have the mind and apparently genitalia of a human boy.
Actually, that was funny to watch him get embarrassed about her drawings of him.
Yep.
And showing like the little him down there. And
best moment, I even shoved a stick up his butt and it broke. And him being like, you did what?
And then one of the boys that's there says, it's okay, don't worry about it. We dug it out.
Again, this anime does not hold back on this kind of things. You know, peeing and pooping comes up frequently because these characters have to pee and poop.
But what I did find interesting in the beginning was because he was a robot, he was considered a relic of the Abyss.
Right.
And hiding him was a high offense, which, again, come with the nakedness, that's their punishment, is being hung naked in public.
Yeah, that is apparently is a thing across their whole society. Like, that's how you punish children. You string them up naked and then beat them.
Well, they didn't imply beating, did they?
I thought they smacked them a couple times in the orphanage with like a switch or something, but I wasn't sure.
Maybe, but no, that's what I thought was really interesting about his arc at the beginning was that they were trying to literally hide a sentient humanoid relic from the people that need the relics to sustain this orphanage, and there's a high punishment for keeping them. So.
Going back to what I said about Rico, though, and the fact that people keep coming up to this robot boy and pulling his pants open to look at what he's got there, and he's super embarrassed of it. He's very aware of that. Meanwhile, you have this human girl who is completely unashamed, you know, throws off her clothes in front of multiple characters and is like, you know, that's life, you know, I got to bathe. You know, what are you freaking out about? And that's only just. It's not just there for comedic effect. It's a very big part of their personalities and showing how different they are. While she is assertive and just like, let's go 100%, he is timid and shy and holds back, when he shouldn't. And that's a big thing about them going down together. While he has the strength and the power to survive it, he doesn't have the mental fortitude for it. And she does, but she has a 12-year-old body that can't handle it.
Actually, that I did like that a lot, that he was like, all right, I'm ready to fight anything. And she's like, oh, that is a blah, blah, blah. It has this, and its weaknesses are this. Like, she's been studying this abyss, like, her entire life. And she's only 12 years old. She has this enormous amount of knowledge about not only the levels and the design of each level, but also the creatures there. And I thought that was a really nice dichotomy for the two of them.
So after they come up with this plan where they get him to admit himself as an orphan into this orphanage, which,
you need to expound on that. That was a pretty great scene.
There's a character that they call Leader. He has his real name is Giroux, but they call him Leader all the time, and he's like the second in command of this orphanage. And they're like, hey, go tell them this story and get into the orphanage. And he comes up and he's like, but why do you have metal arms? Because he makes up some BS excuse.
My uncle put a relic on my arm.
Yeah. You later find out that Leader doesn't fall for this for a second. He's like in on this from the start of like, okay, I see what's happening here, and goes along with it. It's kind of interesting how much Leader knew about all of Rico's backstory. Because at one point I said out loud, I hate every single adult who let these 12-year-olds go. That seems so horrible. And then there's characters who know the full backstory, and I'm like, okay, that actually makes sense due to a condition that Rico has. And I don't know if Leader knew it or not.
I think. Go ahead, Jerry, because I actually have a completely different thought.
Okay. I was just going to comment on the idea that the behavior of these adults toward the children, keeping in mind that it's an orphanage, and the sort of image that they're trying to paint is almost an industrial era image. In my mind, it actually fell into perfect harmony with the period dramas that I've seen where they display like old Irish or old English orphanages, and just the horrible, horrible things that would sometimes happen there because there was nobody making sure that they treated the kids right. The kids were there to do jobs, to labor and bring wealth to the orphanage, and they would often die and just be buried with nobody ever knowing.
But Leader does treat them well.
Yeah. I did get that smell from the director, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I loved that this was obviously a poorer orphanage, and you could tell from their classroom because they didn't have enough space for desks, so they just made the desks up the wall. I thought
that was training for the abyss. Yeah, you're going to be climbing up and down in the abyss, so you're going to climb to your desk.
Well, actually, that was another thing I wanted to point out just real quickly is the younger or the newer orphans had just a bell. They didn't get a whistle yet, but it was a bell. And I thought that was a neat one. But also, cool. I had a dread in my heart when I first saw the orphanage master. I thought, oh, great, Jeremy, what did you get me into? This is going to be another Cruella de Vil type character. It's going to be this evil, overarching bad guy throughout the entire series, trying to make money off of these kids. Steered a completely different direction. I was really happy with that.
She's not important at all.
I'm glad they didn't make her this overbearing matriarch that was like a Cruella de Vil type character. Or a Cinderella's mom type character. I really like that.
Especially with the white and black hair.
Yeah, she was.
I wonder if she's a sibling to Ozen or in some way related, like a daughter or something.
She was definitely old and crotchety and authoritarian, but it wasn't overbearing or distasteful. So I liked it.
After a few months go by, a raiding party actually comes up from a deeper layer, and they're led by a raider named Habbo, and he brings up Rico's mom's white whistle, and her mom's name is Liza. And actually, the town celebrates this because the white whistles are revered because of their greatness. I'm not really sure why white whistles get to keep relics like they do, but maybe they're just like, what are you going to do? Take it from me? I'm way more powerful than you. I have these relics.
Yeah. I think it has to do with the fact that they earned it by going as deep as they went to find the relic. And then, I mean, who could actually go deep enough to bring such wealth? You knew that they would be able to bring back more wealth because of the relic that they had. So I imagine that taking it away and selling it would mean less profit in the end. From a purely pragmatic standpoint, I could see leaving it with them.
Was it just me, or were the whistles themselves, they were relics as well, right?
They said they had a special attunement with certain relics, like relics
they could turn them on.
And they did seem unique to the person, because I know at the end we see a different, he has that skeletal one where Liza
has a bowl.
Right. But I'm not sure. Could be. After a couple things happen really quick. First, Rico finds out the story of how she was born, which was she was actually born in the abyss. And she was put in a curse-protecting relic and carried up, and her mom actually abandoned her other relic that she had gone for to bring up her daughter with another raider. The two of them had carried up her father had died in the same raid, and they carried her up in this giant cube. And that's actually why she has to wear glasses, because the curse did affect her slightly from coming up so high, but she's like a baby that survived the climb.
It was some sort of bell, right, that they left behind instead of...
and then the guy's like, and then the mom went immediately back and got it.
Did she actually manage to bring it back up?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a bell that stops time.
They had it marked as like acquired relics. My impression was that, and I thought that's what Leader said. Like, she didn't need to know that she immediately went back and got it.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Then she also gets to go see a letter apparently written by Liza, explaining everything that she's seen as deep as she had gone, because she was going super deep. And in there is a picture of a boy who looks just like Reg. And they're like, oh, I wonder how that is associated with. And you could probably figure it is Reg. But yeah, as they look at this. And then there's also on a separate piece of parchment something that says, I'll be waiting for you at the bottom.
Of the Netherworld.
And Rico takes this that her mother is at the bottom waiting for her to join her, which is going to be a big plot point.
I liked how the parchment itself that it was written on, we find out later, is a relic itself.
Yeah. And who knows what it does. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of mystery around this letter, apparently, that you don't think there is until later in the story, which we will get to. So yeah, in this next episode, Rico and Reg separately but together decide to go to the bottom. And their friends are very much against this. One friend's even like, hey, your mom's dead. And she's like, no, she cries. And they have a big fight about it and ends up being a thing. But that character's not going to be around enough for it to matter.
They really handled these relationships very well between the kids. Like watching him get upset and then seeing him express why, because he's developing feelings for her.
Lost your mic.
It makes sense at this age that he's developing feelings for her. I actually really enjoyed the exchange that took place here all the way till when she actually went down into the abyss. It was very good.
Yeah. Because basically they decide to sneak out at night, and he ends up helping them. Before they go, though, Reg goes to actually find him and help him apologize before they leave. And he also visits a little toddler named Kayui who is getting sick with his birthday coming up.
Which seems to be a widespread problem.
Right. He hears earlier about a curse of people dying on their birthdays.
If they look at a mirror.
Yeah.
Which that's not part of it.
Yeah. It's presented like it's just a silly, superstitious joke. But
then this little guy who's been like the cute little mascot of the orphanage so far into the anime.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, yeah, they sneak out, and Leader catches him in the hallway and is like, "What are you doing? Pooping?"
Yeah.
Well, where's Rico? Really pooping. She has the runs. And Leader's like, "Okay, well, I'm sure she snuck out. You just need to make sure you take care of her," and gives him a pat on the back and sends him on his way. This will be important later because we find out that Leader actually sneaks a letter into his backpack, knowing that they're leaving, which again, later, once I find out what's going to happen, I'm like, who would let children leave?
Well, also what I thought was great was, again, because this is being told from the perspective of these like 10 and 12-year-olds, Leader's been patrolling the nights or patrolling the hallways every night. Like, he listens to them. He knows when they're up. Like, he's not dumb. He's a near adult. Like,
right.
So it becomes very apparent that you're like, okay, these kids aren't hiding anything from these guys.
And we find out later he was actually Liza's apprentice, and he's like a very good raider. So yeah, and he's like, "Why are you in the hall, Leader? I do this every night."
Yeah.
But Nat and Shiggy, their friends, take them to the slums of the city where there is another entrance into the abyss that you can descend from, and that people used to sneak, like black market relics. They used to go sneak into it. So they go use that, and they begin their descent, which doesn't start off great, because a theme that will come through is that these people really need to tie their objects to themselves. Because Rico holds up like, "Hey, look at my star compass. It always points downward," and then oops, drops it in the river.
I think that was another thing that was really well done with consistency in this. It's like they had stuff in their backpacks, and their backpacks rip multiple times or get torn open, and they lose items, and it affects them throughout the story. And I thought it was so well done That it wasn't just this Deus Ex Machina where it was, this thing that I dropped like 4 episodes back, it's in my backpack because somewhere I went back and got it. Like, that didn't happen.
Attrition becomes a real thing. Yeah, because they introduced this star compass, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a big deal. And then it goes into the river. I'm like, oh, I'm sure they'll find it later this episode. I mean, next episode. Ever? Yeah. No, never.
Yeah, never. It's gone.
And just to point it out, this is the first thing you see in the opening of the credits. Every single episode.
Yeah, and the credits actually become everything they drop.
Yeah.
That's true.
The stuff they entered with, or got along the way and lost.
Yeah. And that's when they find Leader's letter, which he gives them a copy of Liza's.
I love this letter.
And then there's a letter that says, "What is it? I'm coming for you."
Well, no, it was a little more encouraging than that at first. It was like, "Hey, hope you guys do well. Here's some tips." And then, oh, by the way, we're coming for you.
Yeah, we're coming for you at dawn.
So Rico figures this is her last test, that if she can get away from her teacher, she will be allowed to go into the abyss and she'll be ready. So they start booking it. And they encounter a monster, but they actually use it as an anchor. So like, the monsters will never descend. So they grab it and use it to go down. But they do get caught, but not by Leader, by Habbo from earlier, because their friends went to him and were like, hey, just so you know, could you go help them? And that boy was a robot, a relic, and you could see him. So he ran down and is like, hey, I came here to help you, but first I'm going to look at this boy's pants.
Yep. Oh my God, this robot actually has a little wiener. Wow.
Yes, that did happen.
Yep.
And Rico actually rejects his help. She's like, nope, I'm doing a test right now. I have to do this on my own. So he gives them some food and some medicine to help deal with the second level and sends them on their way. And they actually do reach the second level.
Do you remember what the medicine was for? Like what creature?
Oh, I thought it was to deal with the effects of the second level curse, that it would help.
Is that what it was?
That's what I got.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It would make the second level
creature, but I could have misheard or misunderstood.
And then, that episode ends with them getting to the second layer. They never see Leader. He does warn them, though, about a White Whistle who is at the next camp for raiders.
Yeah, because Habbo said, hey, let me help you to this second camp.
Right.
And then they reject that help. So that's where they're going to next, is this camp.
So what is this level called?
The forest?
Forest of Temptation?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they reach the Forest of Temptation.
I love the upside down forest.
Yep.
This is the forest before the upside down forest. This is the one with the giant leaves.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
The upside down one is
the corpse sweeper.
Yeah, that's what we're about to get to. So, they're walking along, and they hear cries for help, and Reg rushes off to go help.
This is where it gets real.
They see a bird attacking a raider, and they're about to jump out, and Rico's like, wait, I think that's a corpse weeper. And it turns out that these birds, giant bird predator monsters, mimic the voices of their prey to catch more prey. And that was the last thing this bird had helped, was someone calling out for help. And the shot is slurping up the intestines of this poor raider. And then they look at his body and it's covered in flies, and
he's been dead a while.
Right. This is when he's like, wait, this is a cute anime. What is that?
Uh-huh. Yep.
And then apparently they hunt like raptors, because then they don't realize that there's one descending upon them right above them.
So in a quick series of events, Rico gets caught. Reg is attacked. He's trying to save her with his, he has these rope arms. He can shoot out grappling arms, and that's not working. Because they keep batting it away and they attack him. So he fires what they will eventually call his incinerator, which is laser blast out of his hands, and wipes out half the forest or something like that. But he does end up saving her, but she's very sick because she went up. You cannot go up once you've gone down, or the curse will get you. And because this bird carried her into the air, she ascended so much that she is actually ill. So he has to take care of her, and then he passes out for unknown reasons, and then she has to take care of him.
This is such a video game design feature. Like, it's so perfect. you can't go back. You have to keep going forward. There is no going up the ladder. This is like roguelike 101.
It's something they stick to this entire anime, and it makes it so much more complicated. You can't just go down a path. You have to make sure that you can go down from that path, because you can't go back. You can't retrace back up and then choose a different path without consequences. And the further down you go, the harsher those consequences get, as we will learn very much later. Right now, it's just illness and
just vomiting and dizziness.
Not hallucination yet, right?
No. That's 4.
Later.
Yeah.
So yeah, they managed to survive this, and then they reach the inverted forest where all the trees are upside down, and they're attacked by like these monkey things, and they're able to get away. But they are slowed down because the winds are so high, and they make it to what is known as the second encampment, something like that. Mm-hmm. It's basically a base for raiders to take a break. When they get there, the elevator isn't given to them, the gondola that invites people in. And they're like, what's going on? And Reg is like, oh, just shoot up my hands and pull us up. And he shoots his hands up and someone catches them.
I love the look and expression in his face when that happens. Because he's just like, oh, someone's got my arms.
Yeah. And they're really strong.
And this is our first sight of the first white whistle we meet, named Ozen. Guys, what did you think of Ozen?
She was definitely my favorite character. She is exactly how I would picture someone that's been living too long, but is trying to hold on to some sort of shred of humanity. Mm-hmm. We come to find out. Should I spoil her all the way at this point, or?
Yeah, because we're
okay. So we find out that she found these relics that give her super strength, and like inserted them into her skin all over her body. And not only have they given her super strength, they've given her abnormally long life as well. So because when we first meet her, when Liza is like near toddler, she's old then. Mm-hmm. And so now we're up to Rico, and she doesn't look any older, but she's been living a long time. So her methods are just a little off, but well-intentioned, kind of. So yeah, she senile, wants to help, but yeah. So anyways, her character was so well written, and the voice actress that did her voice was brilliant.
Yeah. I love the character design. She is towering. She's scary. She's foreboding, especially to a little kid. Like, she's way over 6 feet. And
does she have eyes? Or are those holes?
Every time, I've never seen whites in her eyes, no matter what expression. So I don't know. But I do think it's stylistic, because sometimes when she, opens her eyes wide and gives that freaky look, also her mouth has the same kind of black discoloration and smudging. So I think it's stylistic. I do think she probably has eyes, but I think
that's Rico's like perception of her when she's being scary.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this person has it's the opposite of Sanpaku eyes, because we never forget that term. But I loved, just like what Jason was saying, just this concept that this character's been through so much. She's seen too much. And it hasn't been a life of, relaxation, academic study, doing things that are pleasurable. It's been a life of surviving and watching everybody die or disappear or leave you. And she's still, like, it's almost a game to her to see what's going to happen with these kids. Like, she does want to see them succeed, but then at the same time, does she really? Like, she hasn't really made up her mind. Even when she looks back and reflects on her relationship with Liza, she still is not really made up her mind. It's like she's observing her own actions and evaluating her own actions as she's doing them on screen. I love what they did with this character. It's funny because we all immediately were like, I want Ozen. I want Ozen. No, I want Ozen. So, yeah, he's a great character.
Yeah, I mean, I said Reg is my favorite character, but Ozen's probably my favorite character. And so here's what I thought. I think she shows up in this anime at the perfect time. We're right in the middle, and we're about to go into the the hard part. Like everything up to this has been a cakewalk. And I think she's the perfect, oh man, I lost the word. Oh, she is the perfect foreshadowing of what the Abyss is going to do to you. She is a woman who's had her humanity stripped to its last shreds, physically and mentally. When we see her sitting, she slouches like she's a monster. Her shoulders, hunch over her, and then she rises up like a shadow. She's barely human anymore. And the way she acts, like what Jeremy was talking about, it's hard to tell what her intentions are, because is she actually caring? And I do think she actually cares. I think that last shred of her humanity is speaking out against all her other thoughts and desires and fighting that animal side of her that's been born from the years of going down into this abyss. And it's so, she ends up being an ally in the end, and she's a good person, I think. But she shows that this abyss will take that from you.
And I think if it was anyone else, any other 12-year-olds that rolled up to her place, she probably would have captured them and sent them back home.
I do that too, yeah.
I think because it was Rico, it sparked a desire. It sparked some humanity in her.
She made a promise.
Right. How she delivered on that was a little hard.
I just loved how she explained away the meat monster by saying, I got nostalgic, so I threw some meat in the artifact. Threw some of my dinner.
Hold on, before we get to the artifact, we have to talk about another character.
The casualness of her behavior is just incredible.
Yeah. She has an assistant who she pawns off these two 12-year-olds because she doesn't want to deal with them yet. And that is Marulk?
Yeah, something like that.
Maruk. This ends up becoming a very good ally to Rico and Reg. And what did you guys think of Maruk?
She had... Huh? What?
No.
Maruk is a boy. And I think Ozin is forcing him to dress that way.
Marudu is a young boy with short blue hair and a round face.
No way. Was that
okay? Traits and maid attire leads people to mistake him for a girl, but he's actually male.
So they don't specify in the anime, but when she talks to Reg about being a robot, she's like, yeah, I have a thing too. And then it cuts away, and then Rico comes in naked, and he books out of the room as fast as he can.
Yes,
with a red face.
I did notice that.
That's because he is a boy, and it never specifies why he dresses as a girl. But I could see Ozin be this freak who's like, yeah, I want a girl assistant, and that's going to be you.
So it's almost like she's recreating Liza.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it is made clear later that she's slighted that Liza did not stay with her. But anyways, Maruduk's... Yeah, gosh. The most emotional moment throughout the entire anime is when they're saying goodbye, and he is begging them not to go deeper, and not to leave him. And he goes, it would be better if you guys came back, said it was impossible, and went home. Like that. For some reason, that moment, and that's one of the moments where the babbling music happened, it really tugged at my heartstrings. So it was pretty impactful for me. But besides that, I mean, just kind of a passing NPC.
That's fair.
Yeah. It's actually really funny because I have a very contrasting emotionally response to that scene. I actually was annoyed because I didn't think that Marulk had enough of an attachment to them. They weren't really there for that long. I mean, I know that Marulk was able to watch them through the telescope, and I
don't think that's what it was about.
It was because they were kids, and Marulk saw a lot of other people die, and it was because they were kids, and Marulk didn't want to see them die. Like, he's seen so many other people die, they haven't come back. But I don't know. I didn't with Marulk. I never made a connection where that character, I mean, and to be honest, I thought it was a girl all this time until just now.
Same here.
Yeah. I never made a connection with him, that I would actually, feel anything emotional in that scene. They didn't get me there.
That's fair. I mean, as far as the NPC characters go, probably one of the least important. I thought it was more just really telling about Ozen. Really enhanced Ozen's character of.
I would agree with that.
How sadistic she really is, especially like you said. You guys come on, that's the Liza backstory. Ozen wanted Liza back, and hey, here's this little boy, and is. He's like, hey, she treats me well. It's like, she treated you well. She'd take you home, man.
Yeah. Especially because Maruk says that Ozen strings him up naked too.
Yeah, there's a scene that we'll actually come to where she's like, hey, you did perfectly, but because you went against me, I will string you up naked.
Yes.
Okay, so in the first night while they stay here, they're all sharing a room, and Riko decides she has to get up and pee, and she sneaks off. And this is when she finds the monster, which is basically a hunk of ribcage meat with arms, no head, no weight, nothing below the waist. It's literally just an open cavity of meat with arms that chases her. So she runs back and jumps into Reg's bed.
And then wets.
The best in the morning was, look, it's fine you wet the bed. Why did you wet my bed?
Yes. So good.
And she has to explain. Now, I mean, Jerry pointed out, this anime deals in very harsh realisms. She went up to pee, which makes sense. A lot of kids get up to pee in the middle of the night. She was too afraid to get up again. This is going to happen.
Yep.
They didn't just hand wave it away. And that's not really important yet. But when we get into heavier stuff, that commitment to the realism is going to matter so much.
They laid the groundwork here in the early parts where it didn't matter. It was even just kind of comical.
Right. Actually, it's almost toilet humor at this point.
And also, again, with the commitment to a consistency, Ozen, as she's walking away, says, oh, by the way, clean yourselves up. You smell like puke and piss. Yeah. And that's just because they hadn't had a chance to wash.
Yep.
From 3 episodes ago when they were being chased by the corpse weepers and she got carried up and had the puke. That's
so good.
That's commitment.
Yep.
So when Ozen comes out and sees this, she's like, okay, well, how about I just tell you the truth about everything? Follow me. Takes him to her study, and there is the relic that the baby was carried in. And this is when we learn the truth about what this relic is. She's like, this isn't a curse-protecting relic. This is a relic that brings dead things back to life. You were stillborn in the abyss. And I was upset, and I threw you in this thing. And then you came back to life.
but it's amazing, too, because Ozen wasn't upset that she was a stillborn. She was just upset over the whole situation that had happened surrounding her. But I got chills with this scene, and immediately my mind started going, what's going on with this kid? She's got the crystal issue, her eyes. Is that even because of what they think it is, or does it have something to do with this? So much happens. I mean, especially when you find out that the creatures that are born from this, that are woken back up, always try to get to the center of the abyss.
They're drawn to it, right?
Which is exactly what she's doing. So,
but another thing she also mentioned was that things that are born or brought back to life, they end up dying.
Mm-hmm.
Fairly soon after coming out of this relic. It's not 12 years. That's a long time for Riko.
Which is when I was like, oh, now it makes sense they're letting her go. She's on a time limit, and they don't know what that time limit is. And they're like, well, if she's gonna try to get to her mom, might as well let her go. And that's when I wonder, did Leader know this too? And so it makes complete sense when Ozen's like, yeah, go. And honestly, she hardly seems like she could care. But Leader also let 12-year-old children descend into this pit knowing what it would mean. And it makes me wonder if he knew there's a time limit. At least they're assuming there is. I mean, we don't know how this artifact truly works. And Riko shouldn't be alive this long, as even pointed out.
Since we do know that Leader was an apprentice to Liza, I imagine that she probably gave him some of the details off screen that we're not aware of. Possibly even regarding her being revived, not just protected by this thing, or not protected. And so, I could totally see that. Plus, the boy, Reg, he's from the Abyss himself, an Abed. So this is perfect, a perfect situation for them to let him go.
So Ozen goes crazy at this point.
We get to see just a shred of her power at this point.
She's already mad at Rico for messing up her life and being annoying after coming back to life. Also, she probably died and came back to life in that thing multiple times. That is a harsh reality of it. Rico, yeah, when she was a baby, she probably died multiple times from the curse and just kept coming back to life. It doesn't actually protect you from the curse.
Yeah,
a baby would have died the whole way up. Anyway, it's the horrors of what we're getting into, guys. We have so much farther down to go.
We're not even halfway through the end.
There's a really important thing that she points out that for the people who go into this abyss, the bottom is God to them. It has replaced God, and they worship it. And that when they die, they believe their souls go all the way down and then come back out and are reborn. And that's how and that a robot boy from the bottom screws that all up. It ruins it. And so she says like, oh, so I have to destroy you to protect this religion. So she attacks both of them and easily overpowers them. They try so hard.
She literally uses a finger. It looks like a Super Saiyan moment where she just uses a finger and just touches Rico, and Rico goes flying.
And blood just starts coming down her face.
And she's out. She's knocked out.
Yep. Reg goes to use his arm blast, and she like grabs it and starts pointing it at Rico, like, "Oh yeah, let's see what this does." He's able to redirect it at the last second off into the sky, and she puts on this suit of relic armor,
Zerum armor. God, I love it. She looks like Zerum.
That's exactly what I thought too.
I knew you guys would. Zerum, the animation is we did a pre-show on it, so if you know what the anime is, it's a part of our history. And she looks just like the monster when she wears it. And then she totally just wipes the floor with him, and then he passes out. When Reg wakes up, she's repairing him. She's putting his arm thing, his headband thing back into his head.
Bing.
He went right back in. And there's all these other raiders that Maruk had called up. Maruk had seen how things were progressing, called in their teammates. And this is when Ozen reveals, like, yeah, I was just messing with you guys. I wanted to see how strong you were. You're not strong enough for anything down there. Like, I'm nothing compared to what you have to go through, and they're going to be waiting for you.
Yeah, so it's funny. It kind of leads into her personality. Like, yeah, this whole charade was a bit of a test because she stomps on Reg and pushes him through this concrete floor. And
I half expected him not to have legs when he woke up. I thought that's how brutal she was being.
But it just shows how resilient his body is as a robot. But so she takes him out into the forest at night, and she's like, okay, we need to make sure you can at least have some survival skills. Survive out here for 10 days. Bye.
She's like,
the equipment you have.
She's like, people are going to show up in 3 weeks. I have that long to train you. Here's 10 days alone in the wilderness. Good luck.
Like, she didn't even prepare them like, hey, grab your things. We're going to go out to the woods. No, she walked them out there like they were just going to have a conversation. So all they had was like a headlamp. Like, they had no tools, nothing.
She gives Reg the instruction, do not fire your arm, because every time you do, you pass out for 2 hours, leaving her unprotected. You cannot use that thing unless you are sure it is the last resort.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that was really neat to find out the mechanics of that. That not only were they faithful to it leading up to this, because every time he used it, he passed out. But that she knew, and which leads me to think, because we find out later that he ends up having memories of Liza, I think Ozen knows more about Reg than she's leading on.
Oh yeah, probably. She kept calling him that brat.
Brat. She acted like they had met before, for sure.
Yeah.
And he even mentions at one point, man, I was hoping he'd get more memories. Like it's like one of the main reasons she's stalling them is she's hoping he will remember who he is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The 10 days go by and they survive. And this is where they point out like their strengths and weaknesses that Rico is strong-willed and determined, and she's knowledgeable, but she's frail and weak. And Reg is powerful and strong, but he's unsure of himself and hesitates too much. And so we see them learning to work together better, but it's basically training montage of wilderness survivor. I did like that the old man guy was watching them the whole time, and Ozen would come in and check in, and she'd be like, "Yeah, are they dead yet? Oh, okay, they're fine."
Yeah. Yep.
We do get to see Liza's past with Ozen, how she was a orphan Red Whistle who became her Ozen's apprentice, forced her way into being Ozen's apprentice, and then Ozen learning, when she grows up that she wants to get married, and Ozen feeling like she's been abandoned because of that.
God, I loved the expression they gave her. Like, all that happened was Liza said, "This is my boyfriend, so-and-so," and then the screen just goes immediately to Ozen's face, and she's just, her eyes are black, her mouth is black, and she's like, and that was it. That's all they had to do, because it was such an impact. And I really got the sense that for her, it was like, well, but you're my best friend. We go adventuring together. We go spelunking together. Everything's going to change. You just changed my world. Oh, no. It was great. Very, very expressed so clearly with so little effort.
We also get a flashback in this one I really like. We can even talk about Liza if you guys want. That Liza, after they bring up Rico, and Rico's alive, and Liza's like, "Yeah, this kid is precious to me, but I feel like because of her attachment to me, she won't be able to become her true self. She'll feel like she needs to stay and take care of her mom. So I think I'm going to leave so she can become her true self." And Ozen looks at her and basically says, "That's BS. You want to leave. Because if you stay, you'll never leave for the abyss again, and you've wanted to go to the bottom your whole life." And so that's why Liza does abandon her child, and that's because this was her lifelong dream.
Yep. And Ozen calls her on it, and I love it.
I love that moment, because it was like, I'm doing this for the best of my daughter. She's like, "No, you're not. You're doing this for you. Don't
Who are you kidding? Because it's not anyone else.
But this is when Ozen does promise, if my daughter ever comes to you, tell her the truth about what she is. And I thought that was really interesting, because up to that point we were like, man, Ozen is so mean to reveal, like, oh, you were born a stillborn. She'd promised she would tell her.
Yep. And then even here, Ozen's talking to herself, and she's like, "Well, yeah, I can't believe I did that. You're shoving this on me again."
Other revelations we get: Liza's grave was empty, because everyone believes Liza's dead, and she says, "Hey, I dug up her grave; it was empty." And she gives them Liza's pickaxe weapon, which is like a shotgun pickaxe.
It's awesome.
But they said it's almost out of ammunition, but she teaches them how to use it. And also she's revealed that the note that says, "I'm waiting for you," was not written by Liza. That is not her handwriting, and it's written on a relic, like we had pointed out. And she's like, "I don't know who could have written that. I don't know what's waiting for you down there." Unfortunately, that's something we're not going to find out in this anime, one of the mysteries. But it's stuff like this that they dribble along that keep you following the path with these characters. It's like, what is going on? What is this abyss? It's crazy. But once they do have their emotional goodbyes, they reach the third level, which is called the Great Chasm, and it's basically just a straight down cliff face. Full of flying monsters, and they find little tunnels that they go in. Episode 9 is really interesting because can we talk about the cute bunny things?
Oh, they're adorable.
Guys, there's these cute bunny things, and in any anime, one of them's going to become a best friend, right? One of them's going to be taken in as a pet and save the day. They come to the edge and they're like, we need to get to that hole on that cliff face over there, but there's all these monsters. What do? She picks up like 4 of them and throws them out the hole.
Yes. It's so real. It's so real. Like, that's what real people would do.
And then
also, if you noticed, going down each level, they take into consideration like the life cycle and ecosystem of the entire thing, from food chain to water systems to how prey and predator work.
Light and climate play a big deal because they're always talking about the shield that filters light down at different ways to each level and how that affects the climate.
Yeah, like the attention to detail is just phenomenal. And yeah, instead of befriending these things, she just tosses them.
Yep. There's a moment where I think it might be that moment right there where she picks him up and she says, "I'm so sorry, little guy." And you're like, oh, she has compassion for him. And she says, "I really would have loved to eat you." And then she throws him like, what?
Yeah, they're in another tunnel, the one they climb to, and they're like, man, we are really messing up these guys' home because they're stomping through their home, eating them as they go. They have eaten a few of them.
Yeah.
And what's great is soon there will be yeah. So they find the craziest thing, a ship stuck into the middle of this cliff face. And they're like, oh, is this an ancient relic? They're like, no, this is an ancient ship. And they go into it, and it ends up being a monster's habitat. And so Reg ends up blasting it, and he's like, okay, I'm going to be gone for 2 hours. Don't move. Well, then the giant dragon from the beginning comes in. It's the same one. He's like, oh, I'm going to eat you. So they go to run, and these critters have blocked the hole to escape. That had to be vengeance, right? Like,
yeah.
They were clearly like, no, you're not coming back into our home.
All the critters had like dead eyes staring at them as she's trying to beat on this wall of critters. And of course he's out, so he can't help to beat through it. It was great. Yep.
So this episode is basically Rico trying to survive without Reg while dragging him along, because she has to find food, and at one point she smells fruit. She goes for it, and she falls into a monster's belly that smells like fruit. It's like a jellyfish texture, so she's able to cut herself out. But those same little critters smell the fruit on her and start swarming her. Guys, my biggest fear is being eaten to death by 1,000 tiny bites, like dying by like rat herds. That's the worst, in my opinion. So watching this scene, I was like, no, please no.
Dishonored does that well.
Yeah. But also, like, these cute bunnies are so dangerous.
Yes.
So she flees and ends up in a cave area where she has to climb and will have to go through the curse to get to the top. And this is where she knows it.
Yeah. She knows it too. She's like, I don't have a choice. I've got death behind me, or I've got hallucinations going this way. And so she chooses hallucinations, which I was dreading the entire time. You're going to walk right out of this cave and down out into the chasm.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to walk right out.
Again, the whole rule of the curse and not being able to climb, I think, is such a beautiful thing. It's such a difficulty, especially since it gets harder and harder. And they keep having to find reasons where they go upwards. And the penalty is going to get harsher and harsher. And we find out like how bad it's going to get. I am terrified for these children. But yeah, so she climbs up. She has this hallucination about her mom and going home as a hero, and then rejects the hallucination because Reg didn't make it. Which is interesting because up to this point, I thought she saw Reg as an item. I mean, we definitely saw friendship, but especially when she found him, she treated him like, yeah, I'll shove a thing up his butt. Who cares? He's not a person. He's a thing. And now she's very much like, I'm not going on without my friend. I like that.
Yeah.
When she gets to the top, the split jaw comes back and attacks. But Red wakes up, the 2 hours is up, and he is able to kill it with the pickaxe.
I don't think he killed it, though. He hit it with the pickaxe, and off it flew.
Oh, it's still alive?
Yeah, it flew away.
It's on I saw it on the map. Again, that map at the end in the end credits. It's on the map on that level, and I kept saying, they're going to get to that dragon. And my daughters were like, at least it's not the same dragon. And then it was the same dragon.
That's awesome.
Actually, this scene of him using the pickaxe was amazing. It's very difficult to describe how cool this scene was. But yeah, he jumps at it. It's like the shotgun propelled, you stab it into whatever you're going to stab it into, and then a shotgun blast goes out.
Okay, guys, it's time to talk about episode 10. Because they reached the Goblet of Giants, and I mean, the end of this anime gets very, very emotional. If you've seen it and you come this far with us, you know. But I think episode 10 for me is the most disturbed I've ever been watching an anime.
Yes. And actually, I complained to you in our chat. I was like, episode 10, ... Just, I was distraught. It's interesting because up until this point, it definitely, even though it's been serious dangers and they've kind of escaped by the skin of their teeth, it's felt very much a smaller kids adventure anime.
Yeah.
Nothing permanent or like hard consequences has happened yet. And then go ahead, Troy.
That's true. I will say though, when we fought those birds back in the thing, from that point on, I've been going like, how are they going to make it? They're so outclassed by everything they're up against, and that's so true. So every episode from that point on has been a grind for me. Like, please just survive. Please just find a way to survive. Even episode 9, that whole little critters overpowering them. They have nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So episode 10. They make camp in these giant pools of water that are like, they call them the goblets of giants. Yeah. And they're walking through them, and they make camp in this little hidey hole, and Reg is like, someone is following us and is coming closer every time we start talking, and I can sense them, but I don't know where they're coming from.
What upset me really about this episode, because we've had so much action, like the beginning, like 10 minutes of this episode felt like a break. Like it was this calm before the storm. You had them get into the goblets. You know, it was warm water. There was no monsters in it. They could kind of take a break a bit. They were able to make camp. Yeah, I think that's kind of what messed me up.
Yeah, they did such a good job. The way that they presented the monster that shows up, the way that they presented the entire sequence of events following that, I was caught off guard. I didn't think they were going to do what they did.
Yeah.
We need to describe it, so we give people on bated breath here. A monster called an orbed piercer attacks them. The best is like a porcupine that can control its quills and shoot them forward and stab with them, almost like tentacles.
A very Miyazaki-ish kind of monster.
Very much.
And it's got like a big red soccer ball for a face. It kind of looks like.
It attacks them, and they're trying to figure out how to get past it. And Riko warns them, the spines are poisonous. We have to be careful. They pull out the rock umbrella they have. They're like, hey, maybe we can scare it away by being bigger.
Oh, yeah, because it breaks their pack open and they lose the pickaxe, so he can't.
Yeah, the pickaxe falls away.
And it even recognizes that when they talk about, oh man, the pickaxe, look, there it is. The creature actually hits it with its foot and kicks it away. It's such a great sequence, but go on.
It jumps at them to attack. It shoots out its spines, and Reg goes and blocks it with the umbrella, and it pierces through. He's like, oh my gosh.
It almost hits him.
Hits him. He's okay. And he turns around, and Riko has a spine in her hand all the way through. And so in this water, while he's trying to figure out how to escape, he's also trying to do first aid. Like he ties a rope around her arm, trying to stop the poison. She's fading away. Every time he tries to get away, the thing is ahead of him. It's so fast, and we find out later it can even like sense his movements before he does it.
It can tell the future.
Right.
Now, would we say a spine through her hand? We should also mention the diameter of these things. It's like probably 3/4 of an inch in diameter. So it's like a spike through her hand.
Yeah, it wasn't like a pencil. It was
no. Yeah.
So Reg makes the choice that the only thing he can do is go up to a safe place. But this is the level that if you go up, you will bleed from every orifice.
Mm-hmm.
So he grabs her and they go up. And I think some of the poison comes out at first. Or does she just hallucinate that?
Your hallucination.
Oh.
Because she says that, but it's...
we saw it and the image was all reversed, inverted colors, and yeah, it was all hallucination.
So she starts bleeding from everywhere, and he's freaking out. He's trying to figure out a way to stop the bleeding, but he thinks the poison's okay, but eventually he looks over, and her hand is swollen, and this is a cartoony drawn anime, but they drew it the size of a basketball
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, I need to remove the glove. And he starts touching her. She starts freaking out and screaming and not get to the wound. In her weakened state, she tells him he needs to cut it off. And he starts getting ready to do it. He pulls out the knife. He's like, okay. And she's like, no. You have to break the bone first. And he does. And he doesn't just like crack it. He snaps her arm. And
he finds a rock, puts it under her wrist, and then...
Guys, this entire sequence, it's like 20 minutes of this sequence. This is not just like, and it's not done off screen. It's not like you hear a crack and see birds fly off. You see him over her arm holding it, and then you see the broken angle of her arm.
And her
it's a 90-degree angle, and the skin is just kind of there between. Like,
and her reaction is just so awful.
Oh, screams!
I was not
prepared. And then out.
I was not prepared for this episode.
I was on my feet. I was covering my eyes. I watched half of this through my shirt. I had it over my head.
Okay, have you guys seen Saw? Because I've never seen Saw.
I don't enjoy horror movies.
I can't watch Saw. So yeah, like for me, when I saw this, I was like, is this what people see when they watch Saw? Like this is,
Yeah, but it made it worse because it's a 12-year-old girl.
It's a little kid.
Yeah. And then he takes.
But at the same time, I was like, this is in a situation, knowing what they know, it's exactly what I would think to do too. If I was
honestly, I was like, oh, they're going to take her arm. I was thinking this is what was going to happen before they said it.
Yeah, because he starts cutting and blood starts spewing from where he's cutting,
and then he's attacked by insects. Like it just keeps getting worse
because they're attracted by the blood.
And then he looks and she like lost her color.
Yeah, and she stopped breathing, and he freaks out. He falls on top of her. He starts screaming and crying, asking her to come back. And that's when another character shows up. A little bunny girl comes, and she's like, she's not dead, You could save her. And instructs him in how to do CPR, mouth-to-mouth breathing, and gets her resuscitated. And she's like, oh, and I could save her arm, I guess. You just got to bring her to my base. This character is Nanachi. The little bunny girl who's about their age and lives on this level. We have a lot to cover with her, but guys, what did you think of Nanachi? Jeremy, your favorite.
Yeah. Nanachi was awesome. When I first saw the character, I mean, obviously I've seen her in the credits so many times, and she's also in all of the like trailer and everything. If you've seen anything about Made in Abyss, she's in the images. And so I was waiting, like, when is this character going to show up? And when she showed up, I kept thinking, okay, now who is she? Who is she? Because we know that other characters change, like humans can change when they come up from the bottom level. And so I was thinking, is this Liza? And that was my first thought. Is this Liza? Is this her mom? But it wasn't. There were times when I even wondered, is Nanachi Maruk? Like, does something happen with Maruk where Maruk goes down and then comes up or something? I was trying to put together, like, who are these characters?
Yeah.
And
I thought she was going to be the letter writer. I thought she was going to be our big conspiracy. I thought this was going to be like our big bad. Actually, because like you said, she's in all the images, and I thought the whole conspiracy was going to revolve around this character. I also thought this was only a 1-season show. It's not.
Yeah.
Obviously not. I saw her hands, and I almost thought she was like a rig, like a robot.
Oh yeah. I never thought she was a robot, but I can see that. Yeah, I can see how you think that. I love what they did with this character. So many times we'll talk about animes where a character will be introduced too late, and they don't let us really connect with the character, get to know them. They did not make that mistake here.
Even though it was episode 10.
Yes, we only have 4 episodes.
And then man.
And this character you connect with so well. She is, we'll get into it when we talk about her, but they did a fantastic job.
Okay, Jason, how about you?
I really, just thinking back on I was not prepared for 10 through 13. There's this meme that you kept sending us that was like this guy watching the first 8 episodes, and then he like gets out a bottle, and then like 10 through 13, like he's just miserable.
Yes.
And I totally felt that way. I have so many mixed feelings about Nanachi. I thought she was a great character. But again, I think one of the things that this anime is exploring a lot through a lot of different characters is the idea of people having to deal with situations and actions that they are not prepared for. Ozen, she's way too old to be doing what she's doing, and she has to deal with that. Riko, she is not prepared to go down into the abyss, but she's doing it anyways. Reg, he has no idea who he is. And Nanachi, her whole backstory, she's just a little kid, and she's had to literally live on this level her entire life. And she's kind but hardened in a weird way, and it's hard to describe without watching her. But she definitely shows a maturity that the other two don't, and even though she's about the same age. And I thought that was a nice change, and also nice to see a new face and not just another monster.
Yeah, she has seen some serious stuff.
She's like I said, she's a great character. She comes in and finds a place. She's going to be on T-shirts. This anime needs to be more popular than it is, and she would be a huge star. She's going to be bigger than Vegeta if people took the time to give Made in Abyss its due.
She's a rabbit person now. She didn't used to be, but...
No, she didn't used to be, but she is, yeah. There was one other thing I wanted to mention about her, and that is that I think that her character is enhanced and magnified so much by Mitty. When we meet Mitty as a character, like, without Mitty, I don't think that Nanachi would be as interesting. But with Mitty's presence, Nanachi is just incredible. Their duo is just...
I don't know. I mean, you're not wrong, because Mitty does actually enhance everything about this story when she comes.
Oh God!
Because of everything. But Nanachi, she's so unique from all the other characters.
Yes.
The whole, people grabbing her like, "Thank you for helping me." Whoa, can you just not touch me right now? That's your personal space. Just her whole personality, and like the never having eaten a good food in her life, especially when she cooks, and just how she's not pure good. She's a little bit of a liar. She's kind of a murderer.
Only in the last episode, right? Or I guess she kind of... No, you're right. You're right.
She murders people. There's a lot of graves caused by her. Those are all her.
It's true.
But yeah, she's so unique from what we've seen so far that she fits right in with this group. Even though we've had these two perfect contrasting characters, they were able to make an interesting third character who fits in with them, and that is really well done.
Actually, that is funny because her version of cooking is grabbing a bunch of ingredients, throwing it into a pot, and just mashing it all together, no matter what's in there.
Yeah, when I saw her start doing that to that fish, when she just took a little hand blender and started blending the fish, I was like, what is she doing? Oh my God.
Yeah, because at this point, Riko is out.
Yeah, so Riko actually is going to be out for the next couple episodes, but they take her back to Nanachi's house through a non-cursed path that she has found. And so they're able to rise up and get to her house, and she's able to do surgery and do some repair to the arm. She gives her the rectal medicine, the antidote to the poison, because you can't give oral medicine to a sleeping person. Jeremy has pointed this scene out multiple times, is that it sticks to this hardcore realism the whole time. And this is when she introduces us to her friend Mitty, who we will find out has a very tragic backstory, but she's literally a lump of flesh divided by a mouth with one eye and some hair fur sticking out of her. And she just kind of moans.
Leg.
She has a leg?
She has one leg, her right leg.
Guys,
doesn't move very fast.
We need to talk about Mitty. What do you think about Mitty?
Disgust was my first thought. But until you find out who she is and where she comes from,
God, that hurts.
I was just like, ooh, what is this thing? Why is it crawling around? And why does Nanachi have it in her house?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's like, it's not just there. It's constantly whining. It's constantly making this high-pitched whining noise. And it crawls over to poor sleeping Riko and just puts its giant split mouth on her face and salivates all over her face and is whining and is just there basically for the next episode and a half. Like, that's what it's doing.
I think it was really interesting that we don't get Mitty's backstory until Nanachi turns to Reg and asks him to put Mitty down for her.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes out of the blue. Like, Nanachi's been kind of like, there's this one topic that they've been kind of like hinting at and brushing against, but we never really got to see what it was. And Nanachi kind of shies away from it. It's like, never mind. But then finally she comes out and asks. And Reg is just horrified at the thought at first.
And it's because, so after Reg and her they get mushrooms onto Riko's arm and they end up saving her, they go fight that monster again, and Reg blasts it away, and she sees this destructive power, and that's when she's like, oh, by the way, and she had mentioned before, like, don't get attached to us, you'll want to help us. And then finally she's like, hey, can I ask you to help us? She's like, of course, you saved my best friend's life.
Yeah, and help me defeat the Orbiter? Yeah.
And she comes out, like, will you kill Mitty? She had mentioned before that they were cursed by the 6th layer.
Mm-hmm.
Which takes your humanity or takes your life.
Right. And then she's like, I'm an exception to the rule or a freak accident that I'm turned into a bunny girl with adorable fur. But this is what happened to my friend. And that's all she tells him.
Uh-huh.
And then, like I said, she like Jason mentioned, she skirts around the topic of, hey, you don't want to help us. You don't get involved. And then finally asks, will you kill him? Her. There is a scene before all that where Reg has to go wash Riko's blood pea stained clothes, and he has a flashback of Liza's grave.
Yeah.
Which, we're not going to get answers to all the mysteries, which is kind of disappointing, but if there's more seasons, it'll be fine in the long run. But it is one of them. But it's very clear that Reg and Liza traveled together at a time.
Yeah, you even get the impression that he's saying he buried her.
Yeah, but like Ozen said, she wasn't there.
She wasn't buried. Yeah, it's like you're getting the impression that he was at the site where her pickaxe was placed to imply she was buried. Right. We don't understand why, but he was there.
So to go with her request, we do get the backstory of Nanachi and Mitty, which is that Nanachi was an orphan girl in another country who always dreamed of going to the abyss just because it would be something different. And a white whistle came to her orphanage and it was asking for children volunteers.
Okay. Hang on. She wasn't in like a nice orphanage the way these guys were.
No,
it looked like she was living in the streets and eating trash.
Right. And she's like living in a building with a bunch of other homeless orphans, right?
And they're shoving her away saying, you stink, get away from me.
Right. She's the worst of the worst of them. She even says later, like, they would go and bum meals and stuff, and she just couldn't do that, so she would eat garbage.
Yep.
But so she goes with this white whistle, whose name is Bondrude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Curse Bondrude. Basically, so he takes a bunch of children and he takes them down to the 5th layer. And when she's going down with this group of children, she meets a girl named Mitty, who they become friends. While they're down there, Bondrude starts taking kids one by one out of their sleeping area. And second to last comes for Mitty.
See, now, this is actually really interesting, too, because if you look at the contrast between Nanachi and Mitty, Nanachi is this outcast, but Mitty she's also kind of an outcast. People don't want to hang around her, but it's because she's so exuberant and loud and happy and pretty and energetic and everything that Nanachi isn't. I mean, just keeping that in mind with what happens to turn her into what she becomes. She's the pretty girl, the sweet, the happy, like,
I even commented,
worse
like,
for
wow,
that.
she's got a figure, especially for a young kid. They drew her very
busty,
pretty. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Nanachi goes looking for her and overhears conversations about experiments, finds her in this tube, and then Bondred comes up behind her and is like, "Oh, good, you're here. We're going to put you in the other tube." And this experiment is that it's an elevator that drops two people down into the 6th layer and then rapidly pulls them back up. And help me out with this, guys, because he said a lot of scientific words. And you know how that goes over my head.
The main idea was that it was this, like, together. It was two tubes, but like together. And what it did is it kind of scooped the curse up and was able to evacuate it from one tube and then double the curse into the second tube. But it would spill over, but they wanted to see what would happen to the second person that didn't have as much curse.
And is it whoever's taller is going to get cursed first, or is it just
no? They specifically
selected the tube.
Yeah, they selected it. And so they said, but if your friend dies, all of it's gonna spill back into your tube. So hope your friend doesn't die. And
which Mitty heard this too.
Yeah, they both. He's explaining it to both of them, and so they look at each other, and Mitty goes, "I'll be strong for you. I will survive as long as I can." And they drop him down, and what we've seen of Mitty so far before the backstory, all the children that they took out one by one are there at the bottom.
In the same mutated forms.
Mutated flesh, open mouth thing. So basically, that means they brought them up, saw what happened.
Opened the hatch.
Yeah, saw what happened, and then dropped them back down.
So, no, there's going to be a thing. Mitty's immortal. Are these immortal too?
I don't think they are. The reason I don't think they are is because he would have brought them up to do experiments as well, but he just kept Mitty and was fascinated by Mitty. So I think the others weren't.
I just thought it would be very interesting if when our characters get to the 6th layer, they're still there.
Well, he's got the incinerator.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they find out is they find out Mitty is immortal.
Yeah, so basically as they come up, she turns slowly into a bunny girl, and Mitty devolves into the flesh. Yeah. As she starts screaming, I can't, kill me, kill me, kill me, which is important. I'm not just trying to haunt your dreams like mine are.
Again, not prepared for this episode.
Nanachi ends up becoming like the assistant to the two Bondreds. Like she has to help him. And he's like, hey, I want to show you this experiment. And he opens the door and there's Mitty and there's blood on the wall. He's like, guess what? She can't die.
Yeah.
Kill her over and over and she just comes back. Little worse for wear, but she's immortal. And that's when Nanachi grabs Mitty and makes a run for it and comes back up to this 4th layer.
I think some time elapses because she still had 2 eyes at that point.
She did.
Right. Yeah. Because once she finds her hideout, she then tries to give Mitty her final wish before she devolved, which is kill me, and she just can't do. She can't. She tries and tries and tries, and even that's how she got the poison antidote. Was she tried the orbiter pierce?
That's why I said she's a murderer. She's been killing.
Humans.
Yeah, humans. Yeah. For practice, so that she could do it as mercilessly as possible to Mitty and try to find ways to kill efficiently.
Mercifully. Yeah. I don't know why it took me so long. Mercifully. Yeah.
And there was one thing that she was able to use that her eye was never, one of her eyes was not able to.
She didn't use that though. Bondra did that.
Oh, Bondra.
In one of his tests, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The White Whistle did it.
Wait, but she had both eyes when she kidnapped her?
That's why Jeremy thinks there's more to the story.
Yeah, no, she had 2 eyes during the time that we saw her being like crushed, where her intestines are spilled out and everything. But when she's actually being carried, we only see 1 eye. So I believe some time elapsed while she was being experimented on, and he took out her eye.
That makes sense.
Before she actually left with her. Yeah.
So when Reg hears the story, he asks for time to think about it, but he does eventually agree on the one condition that Nanachi doesn't kill herself afterwards.
Which was insightful, in my opinion.
And Nanachi even says, "That's so mean of you." Like, clearly that was her intention, and is her intention up to that point. But she does agree, and
even her reasoning was fantastic because he's like, "Why would you want to kill her? She looks like she's happy here. Why, she's fine." And she says, "I can't protect her forever. I can't take care of her forever."
Yeah, what happens when I'm gone? She just lays here in the forest, eternally trapped in this thing.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing an adult thinks about. It was really nice seeing this.
And so then one of the most haunting emotional scenes I've ever seen, they make Minnie her deathbed, and
oh god, that deathbed, that has to be like the worst part. Yeah, and she's like a nasty dog slavering over one of the toys, whining on this huge blanket filled with stuffed animals. I'm like,
in this beautiful field,
contrasting scene. Oh, ouch! What a dichotomy.
Here's Reg powering up his incinerator.
Yeah,
which is interrupted for Nanachi to say one final goodbye. Guys, I cried. I cried here. I cried because of Nanachi's voice actress losing it. I was like, that whole thing. I'm like, I got this. So did not have it.
I was close.
I had a tear.
Yeah, I talked about my kids, and they're like, wasn't this scene the saddest? This scene the saddest? I'm like, it was Nanachi's reaction that got me the most. It was the fact that I'd become so attached to this character in 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And that I was sharing her pain so well that got me, I mean, it's not like I didn't see this coming from 2 episodes ago. Like the writing was on the wall, and it just the performances, I don't even understand the language, and it still carried its resonance emotionally. Very well done.
It's almost like they took this entire first half or first 3 quarters of the season and really fleshed out these 2 main characters, Rico and Reg, and then they gave us a movie where they fleshed out.
To your point, this last episode is an hour long.
Yeah,
which was a really awesome thing to do. To like, we want to take the time to tell this story right, and they aired an hour long episode to do it, and I was really impressed by that. Even though it kind of screwed up my scheduling for watching these episodes. So he fires and disintegrates Mitty in one final goodbye, and they
both wail. Yeah, and that almost got me again.
Yeah, Reg and Nanachi hugging and wailing. Reg passes out, and when he wakes up, Rico is awake, and she's helping cook. Which brings another emotional scene of Nanachi eating good food for the first time. I was like, come on, I'm too raw right now.
Actually, I love it because Rico's like rubbing up on Nanachi because of how soft and fluffy she is. Nanachi's obviously enjoying it. And then Reg's like, wait, you won't let me touch you.
She's like, you're perverted.
Yeah, you do it lewdly.
Yeah, that was funny.
But Rico's back on her feet. She mentions that she talks about a very mysterious dream she had of hearing another girl crying and being trapped and being formless, and that when the other girl was gone, it reminded her to wake up because she saw the passion in that girl's eyes of being an explorer like she is, and it's just I'm forgetting the word. Implication. The implication is that Mitty helped bring Rico back from her comatose state as the last thing to do before she was happily
free
of her misery. Yeah. Yes.
To me, it actually gave a really big implication as to the connection that both of the characters have with the Abyss.
Yes.
Because since they've both been down in those really, really deep levels, and it's messed with them. Like you said, we don't know what it did to her while she was in the artifact. So, but Rico, I mean. So there may well be this connection that they're able to tap into each other. If so, I'm curious to see what kind of a connection and rapport that she and Nanachi have over time too, because Nanachi's been in that level of the.
I just really loved the visualization of Rico being in that formless state, and how they brought that around. And it is really interesting to the ties of what Rico really is, because she's obviously something different. After this, they have to surgically remove the mushrooms from her arm.
Oh, God, here we go again.
Just more pain for poor Rico. And I like the scene where they point out that, why didn't you just cut her arm off at the elbow? Because she told me to break her arm. And it's like, oh, because she realized that if she lost her arm at the forearm, she would be more useful than if she lost her arm at the elbow. And that even in a state where she's dying in intense pain, she's still thinking, I'm going to keep going. And that she was, sacrificing for that idea, which just shows how resilient Rico really is. Mm-hmm. But man, just more pain for her, of her screaming out.
Wetting herself again from the pain.
Yeah. There's a very, thank goodness, lighthearted scene of them bathing in a healing spring, before they set out, where poor Reg gets excited, and everyone calls him out on it.
He doesn't even realize what's happening, being a robot either. Stuff that I never would expect in a show like this.
Yeah.
What?
Having watched this with my kids, I had some explanations about biology to do. But basically, afterward, Nanachi agrees to join them to continue the journey, especially since she's got nothing around here to do anymore and can't die due to a promise.
I think I liked, in the bath scene, I think the funniest thing to me was that Nanachi didn't get in the water. Because of the rabbit ears, she can hear from a distance much better than they can. She just kind of sat out there and poked fun at Reg and made the situation more and more awkward every second.
So this episode ends actually on a really sweet moment of they send up a balloon message, which had been mentioned before, that the Deep Explorers do this. And while we're going back and forth between scenes of them preparing for the journey, getting new backpacks, gathering supplies from this level, the balloon is rising up through everything they've gone through up to this point. Really great way of reminding us how horrible this has been. Like, as it's passing the very monsters they've battled and the characters they've said goodbye to, and it's actually found by the two boys who helped them.
I don't know why, but even this got my heartstrings.
It was a very nice touch and very emotional. The music's playing and just that, it's that release almost you needed of, man, look how far they come and everything they've gone through, and knowing it's all worse from here. It's going to get so much harder.
And it pissed me off that this was the end of the season. And they're only barely halfway through the abyss.
Yeah. Especially the very final scene is Bonadrude sees a light go out and knows that Mitty is dead. There was a lot of lights. They have to all be alive.
Yeah, I don't know if it means they're immortal or if it just means that they're still alive. Like, there were some that were out. So I'd be surprised if they all were hit with incinerator beams.
Right. So he realizes Mitty's dead and is like, good, Nanachi, you did it. I hope to see you again soon.
Did you catch that he had a tail?
Yes.
He had a lizard tail? Yeah, he had a lizard tail.
Oh, so he's been experimenting on himself, too.
So we never found out what was in the package then that they sent up.
Just a letter probably explaining their adventures, right?
Well, we don't know.
That's a really good point. I would assume it's just a letter, but it was a rather large package for it to be just a letter. There may be like an artifact or two or something in there too that she grabbed.
I don't know. I was really, really, really wanting to know what was in that letter, in that package.
Bring it back.
In the early beginning, when they talked about the balloons, they had said that it was usually just information about the secrets of the bottom, much like Liza's letter had been. So I guess people don't.
Yeah. People don't believe it unless they're white whistles, too.
It's a white whistle. So that's why it's important that Nat and Shiggy found it, because if anyone else found it, it would actually be sealed away as heresy.
Because they're reds.
Because they're just red. So they must be insane, and that nothing they sent up could be real.
Yep.
There was a scene, though, actually, when Reg asked the guy he saved from the monster when he killed it, please go tell Leader that we are still alive and going. So multiple contacts have gone up, and
that was cool.
and that's where it ends. And I none of us have read the manga, but we gotta ask this final question. We're kind of running out of time, but the final question: what do you guys think the Abyss is?
So for me, I think it's alive. I think it really like they talk about it being a kami or god, and I think it is alive. And the reason is because the way they describe the curse is very much like a trap, and because you can go down and it kind of goes down with you, but the moment you try to go up, it is when it hurts you. And the force field above it, and that's the thing, we missed this. The toddler that was sick, when they took him out of the force field and into the water, he instantly got better.
Right.
I think the Abyss is alive. I think it's got a sentience about it, and I think it ate an entire civilization. And it's giving it's feeding off of the people that die in there.
You guys remember the skeletons they find in the beginning?
Always praying.
Always praying.
I think that's a really interesting theory. I think it's a big machine myself. I think that of all the relics they have, these relics seem to distort or affect reality in one way or another, like the bell that stops time, or that thing that can resurrect the dead for who knows how long.
Resurrect the dead for who knows how long.
For who knows how long, and other things that we have no idea about yet. And so I think that they made some kind of grand achievement, some machine down there that went out of control. That's my guess. But I could see either one of those being true.
So I don't even have anything. You guys' theories are way better than mine. The only thing I could think of was a post-apocalyptic world is what we're actually seeing. Even though like they had,
I agree with that.
That boat they put the little kid on was like a jet engine boat or something. Like it was like a modern day boat. It wasn't steampunk boat or anything like that. It seemed like a very modern boat. But it seems like almost a new world has built on top of an old world, and this is the only link between the two. The thing that kept getting me was that ship in the middle of the cliff. Like, why in the middle of this rock face is there a boat sticking out?
I think at one time the civilization was just on an island, and whether it be the machine that Jerry was talking about that like created a chasm, or some entity came up from underneath and opened the earth and just ate the entire civilization. I think either of those scenarios would cause weird distortions in reality, where you would have a ship that crashed into the side as it was falling down and got stuck, and then petrified over thousands of years.
One of my daughters said she thought they were alternate dimensions, and that the overlap was creating a glitch, an error, and that was causing distortions. She didn't have anything back to that. I just felt like sharing.
Manhattan Project, Okay.
Well, it didn't seem fused with the rock. It just looked in the rock, right? Or at least to me.
Embedded into it.
Yeah.
We have to give our final reviews, so guys, go ahead. And Jeremy, you get to start.
Okay. I absolutely loved this anime once it got going. Had a little bit of a rocky start just because I'm not a huge fan of such a relaxed, free, easygoing anime like that, adventurous child anime. But once it really got going, it hooked me and pulled me in. I absolutely loved it. This is a 5 out of 5 anime for me, and I wish that it didn't just finish the first season within the last week or so. I wish it was starting the second season right now.
Probably a guarantee we'll probably get a second season on this podcast. I don't think we'll be able to not do it.
Yeah.
Jason, how about you?
Definitely 5. Hooked me, gutted me, and then ate me. I was not prepared for this, and I was actually in Troy's boat. First 2 episodes were a little slow, very childish, felt like a child adventure anime, a little distraught at what Jeremy had picked. And then I was not prepared for 10 through 13. So, 5 for me.
It's the end of episode 3 when they begin to descend. And honestly, until they were descending, that's when I got into it. Up until that point, I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I don't know if this would have passed my 3-episode rule if I was watching this on my own. But 5, but kind of a conditional 5 because I'm honestly a little worried about keeping going. This anime gave me the feeling Madoka Magica did, where it's like, oh, this is cute, but God, there is something wrong. There is doom ahead, and I can just feel it building. And the further they went down, it's just, it ate at me. I'm glad to be done to get a break. I don't know if I could go into a second season right away. I don't know if I could. So I kind of want a second season, but with a tepid reservation of let me get myself back into working shape.
Let me recover.
Yeah,
for sure.
Totally agree.
Okay, that will be it for that anime. If you would like to share your thoughts and feelings, and I'm sure you have some, you can reach us on Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can send us an email, the anime Baka Club at gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. Guys, we've had 3 great animes in a row. So I'm changing it. I need a palate cleanser. And you know what? I've already started watching season 3 of Food Wars, and I promised I would get it on this podcast. We're doing the first season of Food Wars, which is 24 episodes long. So for the first 2 weeks, we're only watching episodes 1 through 12. Guys, you will not feel feelings. It's just going to be fun, awesomeness, and very different tone shift from what we need. But like I said, I need this palate cleanser. We should be doing something horror for Halloween. Not doing it. I'm doing Food Wars. I wanted to do Food Wars. I need to not cry for a season. And that's what we're going through. So episodes 1 through 12 of Food Wars, and then 2 weeks after that, we will do 13 through 24.
Very appropriate phrasing there. Palate cleanser.
Yeah, see,
nice.
Yeah. Like I haven't been thinking about that for 2 weeks. Okay, that will end it for us. Let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Sayonara.